Carson's Corner. How we feeling tonight, Leaf fans? A little bit of a tough one against Boston, which it usually is, but it's okay. Season's long, the night is young, so it's okay. You know, for a game like this, Leafs in Boston, it's always a good one to watch because there's always a bit of a rivalry there, obviously, from the playoffs and whatnot. And even if the game doesn't go the way that Leaf fans would hope it to go, at least it's competitive. You know, you got the competitive juices there. The game is usually pretty rough, and it's fun to watch. It's a good Saturday night watch. And tonight was that. Definitely some problems lingering on the Leafs side for sure. But the one thing, you know, even going into this game that I was surprised about is the Leafs were heavily favored. I'm not really sure why. Because I know Boston's had a rough start. They were 0-6 for a while there. But they've come along and they've found themselves after that, 6 straight wins now. The Leafs never seem to play that well against Boston. So being heavily favored, to me, doesn't really make any sense. But, maybe the odds makers saw something that I didn't. But yeah, it's tough. So going in, 90 seconds in, Leafs get a power play. And you're thinking, okay, this is good. We're moving along. We're getting the chances. This is good. First power play unit comes out, and it just looks awful, as it usually does. For some reason, some of the highest paid players on our team just have no drive on the power play. They always have a weird system where the Leafs have this big, grand setup just to move in a straight line towards the blue line and just, whoever it is, Boston tonight, they'll just poke the puck away or set up a pick or a block or whatnot. The puck goes down, and the Leafs have to reset their whole power play. And it just wastes an incredible amount of time. And it's frustrating to watch because there was a play the other night that impressed me from Austin Matthews that the puck got dumped in the corner. Matthews went down, bodied somebody, got the puck, stick handled out of a situation, put it in front of the net, and they got a good scoring chance out of it. And I wonder why that can't happen every night, or at least on a power play here and there. It's frustrating because there's always talk of, Matthews needs somebody on his line that's a big guy that's going to go into the scrums, get the puck. And yes, everybody would like that, and it's nice, but there's no reason that Matthews can't be that guy. Especially as the captain, you have to be the leader on this team, and it seems like he's just pretty quiet most nights. He's had his opportunities, yes, but there's no reason you can't be the guy on that power play to dump the puck in, get it out of the corner, set it up, get in with some speed, whatnot, and make it all happen. It just seems so lackluster. There's no energy to it. So they go off, second power play unit comes on, and they have basically 30 seconds or less usually, and tonight they did. And, Domi to Robertson, and it's in the back of the net. It seems simple for them. I'm not sure why. They just don't make it overcomplicated and whatnot. It was a great play by Robertson. But it's frustrating to watch that, to think that why can't our highest paid players do what these guys are doing? It doesn't make sense. So, it is what it is. 18 seconds later, of course, in true Leafs fashion, Boston comes down and gets what I would call kind of a weird one, but nonetheless, it goes in and it counts. And that always seems to be the case. The Leafs will score, usually first in a game. The other team will come back and immediately score. And you can never ride the wave of the energy of getting the first goal or, because immediately they come back with a real big push, and the Leafs usually let up a goal. It's frustrating. And then if that's not bad enough, 10 seconds later, Arvidsson scores. Makes it 2-1 on another horrible play. And, the first goal, you could say, okay, fine, it is what it is. Kind of a tough one. Looks like it, he kind of had a bit of a fake shot, and then it goes off the post and in, and you go, okay, fine. But then the second one, too, horrible giveaway, and Stolarz lets that one in, too. Stolarz has been good, but I think me especially, I'm worried about how much he's playing. He's never really played a full starting goaltender role. He's always been kind of the backup and whatnot. And I don't know if he's getting overplayed or overworked or what it was, but he just looked shaky tonight. Like, not even shaky, but he just looked slow. Like, he wasn't reading the play as well as he usually is. Now, obviously, it doesn't help with your own team giving horrible giveaways in your own zone, which the Leafs are, bar none the best team in the league for that. But still, he just has to be better. I couldn't believe they actually took him out in this game, which was surprising. They get a second power play. Again, it looks awful. Michelli actually scores on that one, so good for Michelli. I've liked his play of late. Good for him to get that going. I think that he can be a really big role player on this team. But still, you can feel the momentum of this game just not in the Leafs' favor. They're always going to be one short. There's always going to be something against them, against Boston, where they just maybe let their foot off the gas and they just don't quite get over the hump to just get a win. I mean, this isn't even a playoff game. This is a regular season game. It's Veterans Night and whatever else, but it just doesn't seem to be enough energy. They're always trying to win, where Boston seems to know that they can win, which is, I guess, just a mindset fault on the Leafs. There's not the expectation there that Boston has to come out, give a great performance, and if you lose, you lose, but at least you tried hard. The Leafs always seem to come out and go, well, I hope we can win this game. Let's try our best, see what happens. And as a professional hockey team, you can't come out and do that. You got to be giving your best every night. So, it's just another frustrating thing to see. The second period, Boston gets a power play. Morgan Riley with a bit of a chintzy call, but it is what it is. They score on a review call, and I believe that call, prior to the play, like 30 seconds before on the entry there, that was actually an offside that surprisingly nobody caught. That's very rare for the Leafs staff and their video coaches and whatnot to miss a call like that. They're usually 100% on the season, or at least 99%. So for them to actually miss that was very surprising, and that would have been, a big game changer. So that's unfortunate. Pastrnak scores, a true Pastrnak goal, coming in with basically no speed. Dekes out. I forget who it was. I think it was Simone Benoit. Makes him look foolish and then just taps it in. Again, Stolarz just doesn't seem to know what's going on, reacts slow. So that's another frustrating one. And after that, really, I mean, it's 4-2. The Leafs can't generate any chances at all. Excuse me. They score on another power play with 3 minutes left in the period. John Tavares, John's still cooking. Goal 502. Looking good. Again, by then it's 4-3. Third period comes up. Hildeby's in. Hildeby in the past has come in, and I've even been to some games that he's played at, and he's always been shaky. I'm not sure why, but for a goaltender of that size, he seems to get beaten high a lot, and that wasn't the case tonight, but still, there's very little confidence in Hildeby. Maybe he's grown since then. Maybe, his game has come up a little bit, and he did look good tonight. I was impressed by how he played. Made some really big saves to keep the Leafs in the game there. But still, no luck after that. Nylander looked like he tied it up there for a bit, which was unfortunate. I even got off my couch and was pretty pumped up for that one. I think the whole building was faked out. And, they said on the broadcast, you do that play 100 times, doesn't result in that. I think even if you did it 500 times, there's no shot that doesn't go in. Like, that's to hit the crossbar, the post, swim and skate and go out. Like, that's just a heartbreaker. It's one of those game breakers where you think you got it, you're so close, and of course you just don't get the bounce to go your way. And that seems to happen in a lot of Toronto-Boston games. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's just because I'm on the receiving end of never getting those good bounces, but that's a frustrating one, no less, for sure. The good old former Leafs player Fraser Minton comes down on another horrible turnover, which is, I would say, the main story of tonight's game. And, 5-3, by then it's over. And that's a frustrating one, too. There's not much Hildeby could do on that one. But, if Nylander actually scores that 4-4, changes the whole complexion of the game, especially that offside call, too, that they missed. So a lot of little things in tonight's game could have changed the result of it, but nonetheless, it's not enough. The Leafs could have come out, put a better effort forth to just, kind of overrun Boston in general, and it just didn't happen tonight. And it's something with this game this season that I feel the Leafs are still learning to play without Marner. I don't think that's the only factor. I think they are getting a little bit older too and whatnot, and maybe they're a slower starting team now. But I still think there's a lot of things this team's got to work out if we're even going to have a chance in the playoffs. I think we might squeak in there this year, maybe even a wild card spot. It's going to be tough, but hopefully they can pick it up and do a little better because it's not looking good at this point. The record is okay. But you got a lot of other teams who are usually bottom feeders that this year are playing a lot better and that are coming around in their development and whatnot. And I think it's going to be harder than most years because I know Florida, they've been struggling, but they're going to get good again. And the Leafs got to figure out a better system to play with. It seems like they're trying to play a system right now that they don't like to play, and they're kind of being forced into it. And I don't know, but something's got to change soon, or maybe get a couple different guys in or something. But we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting, some magic to happen in the playoffs. I don't know. So that's the game tonight. Tough one against Boston. Hopefully next one will be better. On a side note, I did notice the Raptors also played tonight. Not a huge Raptors guy, but I watch when I can and whatnot. They played Philly tonight. I didn't really get to see much of the game at all, but I noticed they lost 130 to 120, and I haven't seen much of the games this season as it still has been pretty early on. But the one thing I noticed is they seem to give up a lot of points per game. I'm not sure why that is, but every game I seem to look at, it's 115 to something, or 120, or tonight 130 to 120. Like, I don't know what's going on with their defense. Usually the Raptors were a really defensive-minded team, and you could kind of count on that to really, if the offense wasn't there, the defense would kind of keep you in the game. And that seems to be completely eradicated out of their system. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'll try to keep up a little bit more and maybe make some Raptor videos, depending how this season goes. But as always, thanks for checking in. Excuse me, voice a little hoarse here. Thanks for checking in. Hopefully I'll see you next time. And as always, cheers.